What's up, everybody? Sean here for Bearded Kappa Productions, and we are here to talk about Final Fantasy III on the Famicom, originally released in 1990 in Japan. And while a few different iterations have been released since then, probably the biggest one, the complete overhaul of it for the DS in 2011. Now, the game originally there's the 2011 cover. You can see the big update in the characters, which we'll get into. Now, see, originally on the Famicom version, you start off as four generic characters, kind of a throwback to the first game, where they're a blank slate. They start off in the class called the Onion Kid, for whatever reason. That's just what they decide to call them, and they're a blank slate. You name them what you want, you give them your own personalities. Much like I said, it was very much a throwback to the original game, and much like the original game, you eventually can change classes. Now, unlike the original one where you pick what you start with, you actually play through the story mode and get once you find the crystals, the typical crystals that are found throughout the Final Fantasy franchise, and each one unlocks a job class that you can change once you earn enough little points. You can change it anytime you want, really. So this is when they first started playing with the idea that they would eventually really perfect in part five, which we'll of course get to down the line. Now, as I said originally, it was just blank slate, like the first game, Onion Kids. But in the 3DS remake, which is actually the only version I've ever played, they gave each of the characters, well, personalities and unique characteristics from left to right. We have Luneth. He's just kind of every hero, he just wants to be good from a little village. He got his best friend there in the green arc. You find the blacksmith's daughter, Rafia, who, unlike in the original game where you just get all four of these characters, you actually play through a little bit into the actual game before you meet them. And the final one is Ignis, who is a knight of a kingdom nearby. So, but again, from there, it should pretty much be the same game. From my understanding, is that you just play through, you get your different job crystals, and change your classes to fit all kind of different situations. Now, unfortunately, that is where I think the game kind of falls apart. And not falls apart. I think it kind of they dropped the ball on a great idea. The idea of the class change, which, if you play modern Final Fantasies, that's nothing new, but back then this was very revolutionary. The only problem is they were so about making you want to change classes that they would actually make you have to. I mean, you have to, unless you just grind it up to ridiculous levels, which is no fun. Once you realize that's not what you have to do to get through RPGs. Lord knows I spent many times playing these old Final Fantasy games and just grinding up to high level because I didn't know strategy, didn't know any better. But this game, unfortunately, kind of takes that away. With as much freedom as you have to make your party the way you want. Once you encounter a boss that once you learn, say, the Dragoon class, and you have a boss right afterwards, you pretty much have to have at least one or two of your party at minimum has to be that class. Otherwise, you're just going to get wiped out by the bosses. And that's throughout the game. Beyond that, it's kind of like I said, a different take. That they're kind of expanded, a little bit bigger than the second game, which was basically just take down the evil empire. This one they got the whole light and dark worlds. They even have dark heroes. You get assistant characters throughout as well. It kind of expands on, a little bit on two, where you'd replace one of your party, but this one was actually just more like a fifth member who, in the newer game, I don't believe they did it in the old NES game, but in the newer game, they would actually aid you in battle and do little things like that besides just story elements. So it's not bad. Like, three is not bad. I'll play three over part two personally. It did take me a while to beat three though, because again, I liked the idea of the making your party the way you want to make it, but then I didn't necessarily enjoy the having to change my party up to match whatever I'm doing. And there's an early part in the game where you have to get shrunk down, which is kind of cool. Again, great ideas, but yet it's not executed well for me. And that's of course looking at a by modern standards. If this had come out on Nintendo and I actually played it, I'd probably love it a lot more. But for what it is, it's a fun game. It's a good entry, much better than Part Two. Not near the classic Part One, and not near the classic of the games we're going to be coming up here soon, which is the Super Nintendo era. And I'm super excited to talk about those. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you heard, please like, comment, subscribe, and of course share. And yeah, we'll catch y'all later.